Is the housing market at a breaking point, or are we going to see uptick in the spring here around the corner? Well, I'm going to share with you MLS data that nobody else shares with you, so stay tuned to that. I'm also going to share articles with you of what's going on. For example, right here, the Bank of Japan faces policy dilemma as government bonds yields keep hitting new highs. Now, the reason this is a big issue is it's going to make interest rates stay elevated for a longer period of time here in the US. And the reason is our Fed is cutting the Fed rate, which is trying to bring that 10-year treasury down and bring those mortgage rates, those loans, those percentage points down. Well, we also need other countries to buy treasury bonds to be able to essentially lend us money so that we're able to operate. Now, if Japan on the flip end is increasing their interest rates, it's going to make other countries invest into their bonds instead of ours, into their treasuries instead of ours. So that's just another issue that we're facing right now. Also, to top it all off, we just hit 1 million US jobs have been cut from the industry or from the job market this year. 1.2 million. And now, why is that a big issue? We'll take a look at this right here. If you take a look and we analyze what's going on, you see that it's the highest total. Oh, what just happened here? Now I got to scroll down and figure out where we were at. But it is the highest total right here in the month of November since 2022. Now it won't let me highlight it, just keeps jumping up. Not sure why it's doing that. So right here, since 2022. And these job cut announcements in November going above 70,000 right there. Try to highlight that really quick so it doesn't shift upwards on me. Never had that happen before. But right there, you're seeing 70,000 jobs. Only happened twice since 2008. 2008 was one of the years, and 2022 was the other one. Now, what happened in 2008? Well, the 2008-2009 great financial crisis. In 2022, what happened? Well, they changed the terminology of the recession, bailed out Silicon Valley Bank the following couple of months in March, and essentially pumped back money into the economy and avoided the furthering of that recession that was never labeled a recession. So you're seeing that these job cuts are actually really coming in pretty dang bad. This is all happening as we're anticipating 3 million car repos at the end of 2025, and we see that the treasury yields are moving higher after cooler PCE inflation. And PCE inflation, that is the personal consumption expenditures. And this takes out volatile spending of food and utilities. So essentially, the inflation numbers are coming down, and yet even that is now sending treasuries up. Well, this whole time we were told that inflation coming back, causing rates to be increased, was the reason rates weren't dropping, and now cooling inflation numbers are also making interest rates go up. Make it make sense. And that could have some stuff to do with the Bank of Japan increasing their rates, which now makes it more appealing for other countries. Now, I don't think that Japan is going to be able to keep doing this. They're built on debt. They're worse at printing money than we are. That's who we probably got the idea from, seeing that Japan has been doing it for 30 some odd years and nothing has happened, so we joined the party. But I'm also going to show you this data over here. So right here, I had a house. I listed it, fully remodeled, and I'm going to show it to you. We had a hard time selling it. Now, I listed this house just right now, and we ended up getting multiple offers, and we ended up going above list price, multiple offers, a ton of showings. So what's going on? Are we at a breaking point or are we not? Do you think that this is going to be sending us into a recession? And again, I'm going to actually dive into this right here and show you what happened, how this house should have actually sold for more. And I'm going to give you some insider information here. But we are seeing 1.2 million jobs cut. I mean, this is one of the worst years on history. And right here, we're seeing repos hitting what they're saying the Great Recession. So this is in par with the Great Recession. And then we had job cuts in October that was the highest in the last 22 years. So what's going to happen? I mean, I really would love for you to put in the comments what you think. Are you thinking there's going to be a recession? 50-year mortgage, right? That's got a lot of backlash. That doesn't seem like it's going to be a thing. Wouldn't really make things much more affordable either. Banks would have to increase their interest rates, so that seems to be a forgotten thing right now. But you see that they're just trying to stimulate the economy. And then talking about a war here, about a war there. They're trying to essentially stimulate the economy by starting a war as well, potentially, because wars fuel economies. So right there, you're seeing a bunch of pain here of what's happening in our market, in our economy, and our housing market. Now, again, the highest layoffs here in November since 2008, 2022, above 70,000. Well, both of those signaled a recession. So are we going to be heading into one? And then Verizon, one of the nation's largest firms, right, announced plans to cut 13,000 jobs in November. And I have some inside information from somebody who works at Verizon, and I was told that that has taken place, that those jobs have been removed. And now I'm going to come back over here and show you what this Challenger report reads. So again, right here, this is where it comes to that November's total is the highest for the month since 2022, when 76,000 jobs. And remember, I was telling you guys that everything that I was seeing in the housing market, in the economy, in the data was indicating that we were back on par with that second half of 2022, where they then bailed us out. Now the question is, can they do it again? We didn't have 1.2 million jobs lost in that 2022 calendar year. We also did not have these repos that were going to hit Great Recession levels. So are they going to be able to pull us out? That's the big kicker. And real quick, hit the subscribe button. No one has your back like Dinko the Realtor. Smash the like button. Help this video get in front of more people. And when you do need a real estate agent in Utah, Dinko the Realtor has your back. My contact information is down below. Now, right here, we're going to go and dive into some of this insider MLS data information. So right here, before we do that, I want to show you the active listings. So you see that they were trending upwards here in the spring, summer, and then they're coming down. So that is the normal trend that happens every year as we get out of summer, head toward the holidays, winter, and then it continues actually going down usually. However, remember last year, look at this blue line. As soon as January came around, inventory started increasing. And a lot of people are delisting. And there's actually something that I wanted to show you guys. So let me actually pull this up here real quick, see if I can find it. I ended up sending an email over to myself, and here it is. So right here, hi Dinko. I spoke to my sellers about your client's offer. They have decided to withdraw their listing from the market. They originally listed to move to Texas for employment, and they will now be staying in Utah to work for a little while longer. Sorry, it wasn't the right timing. Good luck with your buyers. So essentially, they didn't even want to really negotiate with us. The house was on the market for over 100 days. They did a price cut. We, of course, hit them with a low offer to start negotiations, and they said, well, you know what? We're just going to wait here. The time frame, it's not urgent. The job is giving them a couple of months to do so. And I have some sellers that have taken their houses off the market. So you're hearing that the delistings, the amount of sellers taking their house off the market is at all-time highs here since they started keeping track of this data, I believe since about 2012. So if that's happening, there could be a very good chance that we end up seeing a spike in inventory just like we did at the beginning of this year, where inventory starts increasing much earlier. Now, this one again got multiple offers, and this one over here did not. So, if you take a look, these under contracts, here we are, these last few years since the end of 2022, and you see that we're way below the under contracts of the 2021 and 22 beginning pandemic years, and we're still below 2019 levels. So essentially, the under contracts have not recovered. Now, back over here to this MLS data. And right here, you take a look at this listing that I had. Now, the carpets did need to get changed a little bit. They weren't in the best of shape, but this house is good. I mean, it's a remodeled, ready to go, 3 full bathrooms. It has updates, nice house, right? Well, you take a look here. You see that we listed at $549,000. And we listed here on the 23rd of October. Now, with these sellers, I told them, list before you buy. And let's not get into the holiday season. Let's not get toward Halloween and heading into Thanksgiving. And we ended up going under contract in October on their buy, and we ended up listing right before Halloween. Well, they didn't want to carry 2 mortgages. So essentially, they were panicking a little bit. And at $550,000, we end up getting 2 showings. And at $525,000, we get no showings. So we adjusted to $515,000. And if you take a look at the client history report, you see that that's what we did. Right down here, you see we went from $549,000 to $525,000, and then we went from $525,000 to $515,000, and then we finally went under contract. Now, when we listed it to $515,000, it actually took a day for the showing to come in, and they scheduled it for Saturday. And then the next day, somebody else scheduled it for Saturday, and then finally a third person. And only one person sent us an offer. and that was a net offer of $504,300 after inspections, and then $12,000 in concessions. So essentially a net offer of $491. So you're seeing that that was considerably lower. Now the reason I want to show you this is if you take a look right here. And again, remember, this one just got multiple offers here, bunch of showings and multiple offers above list price. And right here, you take a look. These are the houses that I was competing at. So I said, hey, 550, maybe, if we get some showings, some interest, we'll just give them a ton of stuff. Well, this one here was 549. And essentially, I think they were still in the 540s when we listed. We were nicer than that one. Now, if we take a look over here and we analyze some other houses, again, this one here was in the 530s. And again, when we analyze it, pretty nice house, right? However, ours had more updates, had a nicer kitchen. This one doesn't look like it has granite there, though it is pretty nice here. And then that one's still up for sale here. And then if we take a look and we analyze, you see that this one here dropped all the way from 575 down to 515, and now they're under contract. So if we take a look at the history of that and we come down here, we see that there was just price cut after price cut. They were under contract once, fell apart, further discounting, finally dropped it to 515, and then a week later ended up going under contract. Now, the reason that this is actually very key is if we actually analyze this. So again, I ran comps, and at 525, really, we should have had multiple offers. I kept running comps, kept looking, and there was nothing at $550,000 and under that really compared to us. And at 525, there was absolutely nothing. Everything needed $50,000 plus to even look like what our house looked like. So again, what are you thinking? Is the housing market breaking? Or are we going to be back to the spring season where things are going to be picking up here? But we see that things are slower. People are delisting houses, 1.2 million job cuts. And again, if we go over here and we look at the sold data, and then we end up going back over here to, let's just say, April 1st, and let's just go 500,000. So I just want to show you guys something here. There were houses, if you take a look, that actually sold. So 540, right? This one over here sold also for that's our hours. And then you look at that, 525, 550, 540, 535. So you're seeing that earlier in the year, you had those sales. And now all of a sudden, you don't. All of a sudden, we were a remodeled house and we could not get multiple offers. But however, this one over here did. So again, I would love to hear your point. And I know this was a lot of information, but again, real quick recap. We see that Japan is increasing rates, which is causing their treasuries to be more appealing for other countries to essentially invest in. So you're seeing that surging, strongest level since 2007. And if they stick with their policy of raising rates, which I don't think so, because they'll go into a Great Recession, Great Depression, they can't handle it. You're seeing that our treasuries are moving higher, but inflation, because inflation came in cool. I mean, weren't we chasing lower inflation? So everything just is bunkers, upside down. 1.2 million jobs lost. Repos coming under the surge of the Great Recession. Maybe they start a war to try to bail us out. I don't know what else they're going to be able to do, but 50-year mortgage. They're always trying to figure out how to keep on printing, how to keep on making things go up. And so are we at a breaking point? And again, most job layoffs in October in 22 years. We're seeing right here that Verizon was cutting some jobs. We're seeing that we, in November, had the most job cuts since 2022 and 2008. And then we're seeing what was happening here on the MLS market. Again, this one had multiple offers here, and we're seeing that the under contracts have not recovered anywhere close to the pandemic or prior to 2019. And then active listings are on their way down, but they should be on their way up here sometime in the next few months. And are we going to see, because of all of those delistings, all those sellers taking their houses off the market? And like I said, I have sellers doing that too now, and I have sellers waiting for next year to see if it's better. So are we going to start seeing a dump of homes come January, February, March? And is inventory going to be much more elevated? And if we essentially hit almost 14,000, are we going to hit 16, 17, 18? And what happens if we see forced selling? I mean, foreclosures are starting to pick up, even though they're at low levels because they were suppressed forever since the pandemic because of the COVID-19 foreclosure mitigation programs. But we're seeing a lot more people taking FHA loans. And that's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to have such a big share of FHA buyers out there, but people can't afford, and FHA allows lower credit scores and lower and higher debt to income ratios. So are people taking FHA loans, and which makes it more risky. And also defaults on FHA loans are rising. So I will be making a video about that, showing that there's more weakening here in the economy and in the housing market. So if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and when you do need a real estate agent in Utah, Dinko the Realtor has your back.